praised over there, Group Captain. Let me bring in Professor Swaran Singh. Professor, are we entering an era where quantity beats quality? This is the economical paradigm shift as well. Group Captain is too kind. Let me not make you scratch your head so much as well. You've got cheaper offense that is deliberately designed to exhaust expensive defense. And, you know, some of those points that Group Captain was talking about, how do we close in on these gaps? Is this the new face of what? You've got precision strikes, you've got swarming and overwhelming saturation, where volume of the attack itself becomes the strategy. And only yesterday you were talking about how Iran is trying to maximize the chaos in the region as a strategy. Miscalculation or not, I think Captain in retrospect will help us connect the dots later. But right now, there seems to be a new evolving grammar of warfare. And are we ready? Are we there yet? When you talk about stockpiles, when you're talking about supply chains?
Indeed, Kabir, in the entire history of war fighting machines from ancient times, there has always been a cycle of offensive weapons having an edge and defensive weapons having an edge. So that cycle is always likely to continue. And second thing, in history of warfare, surprise has always been a very, very important element to ensure victory in any war fighting. So here what we are seeing is that by the time you think you have developed certain defensive systems to deal with incoming missiles, by that time, you know, new things are going to be your challenge. And even now, when we are saying, even in the ideal circumstances, the hit ratio of interception is at best 90%. In June last year, Israelis, who think they are the best in the world, along with American help, they had 86% of it in intercepting Iranian missiles. So that challenge is going to be constantly there, and one has to constantly keep on the edge and keep developing, knowing new things. But what I want to bring to the table is not just technology, but infusion of psychology with technology. What is happening in these 11 nations which are now on the target of Iranian missiles is not just the physical damage or successful interception, it is the enormous panic that has resulted in most of these urban centers or destinations where missiles are aimed at, or some of them are even landing there. And what we saw as a result, the first example in this strike of last 3 days of 3 American fighter jets, F-15, being shot down, was with friendly fire. It was not enemy fire.
Yeah.
It was friendly fire that killed those 3. So panic would lead to irrational decisions, miscalculations. How to train not just soldiers,
that's a great point,
but your population, to make population aware of how to handle situations like this. And that, I think, is also equally significant. Though we will have to continuously work. Prime Minister in last Independence Day speech enunciated the idea of Sudarshana Chakra shield, and on that we are trying to also collaborate with the Israelis, who have developed something called Iron Beam other than Iron Dome. And Iron Beam is a laser weapon which is supposed to be cost effective. You are mentioning how to make defense cost effective, which is the challenge now, which is the question asking. So laser beam is not just cost effective, it is also supposedly more efficient. So defense technologies will also have to become innovative and develop new systems. And I think that is where collaborations across nations will also be very significant. No single nation can discover everything. Every other nation otherwise will be reinventing the wheel again and again. So partnerships and collaborations is what India will have to explore, and India is doing that, for example, whether it is with the France in a great deal now or with Israel potentially as well. So partnerships at the level of blueprints, not just license production, but at the level of.
So basically what you're saying, Professor, is that indigenous capability is one thing, but partnerships are equally important. And contemporary grammar of warfare. Final word, Professor Swaran Singh. You know, you earlier mentioned the F-15s that were downed because of the panic that was created. So you've got modern warfare, which is persistent, overwhelming with cheap drones and psychologically disruptive. But before we end the show, I think when we're talking about lessons for India. The Strait of Hormuz and oil is also a big lesson. 60% of India's crude flows through the Strait of Hormuz. If oil spikes to $150, economic warfare becomes more damaging than kinetic warfare. And after Qatar's LNG move, the prices have already jumped, sir.
There are multiple costs here, commodity prices going up, supplies getting delayed, etc., etc. Each dollar up on your oil market price leads to $1.5 billion annually in the Indian bill in that sense. But to complete my point that I was making of building global partnerships should lead to indigenization. To make India's defense future-proof, it has to be focusing on indigenization, which we are doing. But for the immediate, I think we need to really equip our Air Force, which needs to retire and replace old MiG-29 and MiG-21 and so on. And we only have 32 squadrons of the sanctioned 42. So I think there are immediate challenges, and in the long run, of course, we have to also focus on developing.
I think, Professor, we are doing that. You've got the Sukhoi, you've got Safrans, you've got the Rafales. Then we're building the AMCA back at home as well. I just hope that when it comes to loitering munitions, we can take that one step ahead, do a little bit better than our fighter jets.
That's absolutely the need of the hour. But also when we talk about blending AI, it will have its own challenges as well. When you make systems unusually smart, swift, and autonomous in some ways, they have their own challenges in that sense. So technology will have to be really future-proof, future-perfect, so that we can ensure that future challenges that will come to us 10 years down the line, we are already working in that direction. And that is where I think the focus on R&D has to be there.
The lesson is brutally clear.